now take this opportunity to welcome Sister Shirley, the Provincial of the Poor Handmaids.
Well, thank you. Good evening, and it's great to be here with all of you. On behalf of the Poor Handmaids, we just welcome you to this event. We're so excited for you to see the video this evening, the documentary. I think you'll just love it. And I know I see lots of friends out there, and probably some that I didn't see before. So all of you who have been out at Ancilla and have heard the new organ, raise your hands. Oh, wow. Okay, that's quite a few. So, do we have a treat in store for you, for all of you who have not been out there and have heard it, because you just have to hear it in its realness, you know? It's spectacular. And so, we're just looking forward to making a lot of new friends tonight. We welcome you here, and enjoy. Please do enjoy the food, the drinks, and the video documentary. Thank you very much for being here. Next, you get to meet Andrew, our Director of Music and Liturgy out at Ancilla.
Thank you and welcome again. It's so exciting to see so many people here tonight. This is such a special occasion. We've had the organ for a little over a year now. We've dedicated it. It has been a focal point of our liturgies, our prayer life at Ancilla, as well as many performances so far. But this evening, it captures something. When you think of the hundreds of thousands of Christian churches that are in the United States, well under 100 organ builders or organ technicians throughout the country. Something like this doesn't happen all the time. It's a rare occurrence, and certainly something that I never dreamed that I would get to be a part of in my career. So having Split Road Media, having Trevor and Bryce, I saw Bryce around here somewhere, partnering with them to create this documentary was such a wonderful experience, and it's something that we'll be able to have and revisit time and time again to remember the beauty of this experience. So, without further ado, here's our documentary showing Opus 83.
I'm the Director of Liturgy and Music for the Poor Handmaids of Jesus Christ, and we are in the Ancilla Domini Chapel here at the Mother House for the Poor Handmaids in their North American province. And this is our new Taylor & Booty organ builder Opus 83 pipe organ. We began this process about 4 years ago when our original pipe organ, a 1923 Louis Van Dinter, was beginning to show signs of failure. When the Poor Handmaids talk about sustainability, they're looking at a course of lifetimes more than just the next 10 years. When we met George Taylor with Taylor and Booty Organ Builders out of Virginia, we knew that we had found our match.
My name's Aaron Reichert. I'm the Vice President and Tonal Director of Taylor and Booty Organ Builders out of Stanton, Virginia. We built Opus 83 here in Ancilla Chapel. My favorite thing about this organ is not actually the organ itself, it's the room, and the way the voices of the organ engage the room is really magnificent. It makes the whole instrument sing with a much more beautiful and mysterious and majestic sort of presence. The organ here in Ancilla Chapel is really special in many accounts. First of all, it's beautifully decorated, and not done so because we needed decoration on it, but done so that it would be harmonious and fit with the room. The room is just a gorgeous, beautiful place to be in, to sit in, to listen to the organ. It's also wonderful to be able to provide an instrument that, to the best of our ability, matches the beauty of the rest of the church. This organ is unique in many respects. It's bespoke. It's designed and built just for the chapel and this acoustic. The organ has a few stops that are pretty special and that you don't see on every organ. The Fagot 32-foot, which is bassoon 32 in German, is a very sweet and gentle but profoundly enveloping sound that's quiet and undergirds the whole organ at a very low pitch, down to 16 cycles per second. It's not unique in the world, but certainly is one thing that's fabulous that this instrument can offer, not to just the sisters and Ancilla Chapel, the visitors, but the wider community, anyone who comes here.
In 2019, when we signed the contract with Taylor and Booty, the old organ was here for another year or so before it was dismantled, and the sisters donated the pipes to another organ builder. There's a parish out in Arizona that didn't have a lot of resources, but could use those pipes to help build a new organ for their space. So in a way, that organ is still living on in a different form.
So the organ, building it, went in stages in our workshop. And so you can see from the part that is wider, that carries the facade pipes up, was set all together on the floor and built before finish went on everything, and then was disassembled, finished, and reassembled all back together. Many parts of the organ came apart and back together lots of times in the workshop. All necessary for a instrument that's quite tall and didn't quite fit in our workshop, so it was never set up all together until it was here on site.
In November of 21, they brought the first pieces of the organ in. It was just an incredible day to watch that really happen.
So this organ is based in the North German tradition of organ building and is excellent for congregational singing, for accompanying the cantor with some of the sweeter, softer voices, and is an excellent player of the North German Baroque and earlier literature, but is accessible to most styles of music. The instrument has 36 stops. It has 2,486 pipes, many of which are reed stops, which are exciting. Work totally different than the flue stops, which compose most of the organ, but give you that wonderful, majestic, trumpety fanfare kind of feeling when you get to Christmas and Easter and those sorts of high feast days. The decoration on the organ is inspired from not only the reredos in the chapel, but also the tower above. And you can see many common elements throughout. All of the carvings on the organ are made from basswood that was actually from the site here at the center of Donaldson. The lumber was taken to our sawmill in Stanton and processed, milled, turned into carvings, all the voids cut out, all of the carving done by hand, stained, glazed, and put into the organ as you see there now. One of the connections from the literal land here to the organ in the chapel.
It was the first Friday in March of 23 when they finished voicing and tuning the last pipe and left that day. And being able to play this for a service, we were entering into the Lenten season in our church year. So music was still subdued, but by the time Easter came, we were able to really open up, and it's like the air was finally filling the space again. The pipe organ is integral to the liturgical life here at the Mother House in the Ancilla Domini Chapel. We have multiple services. On Sundays we have Mass that the community is invited to. We have Taizé prayer services that happen multiple times a month. The sisters have community meetings here. Our retreatants use the space that come here to Lindenwood Conference and Retreat Center. And we hold several recitals throughout the year and different musical concerts. All of these things are free and open to the public. We want to keep all of the musical experiences here free because we never want the cost of something to be an obstacle for someone to come and enjoy this. During our liturgical celebrations, whatever that may be, the pipe organ is so important because it breathes. The air flows through it. In a way, we can think back to the creation story in Genesis, that it was the Spirit, the breath of God that animated the earth, that created. And in that way, we can think about that. We can take ourselves into that narrative of God's creation when hearing the air pour through the pipes. We truly believe that in an atmosphere like this, hearing music coming forth from a beautiful instrument by a talented performer creates a sense of transcendence. It can really take someone out of themselves and let them experience something greater, something bigger, whatever that may be, whatever name they may use for that. The organ sustains and stabilizes our own singing. It gives us confidence to sing with it. And through our own air, we're again remembering that moment, that Spirit, the breath of God flowing through us.
My favorite thing about organs in general is maybe not the organ itself, but how it parallels the human and the human voice and lifts people up in song, lets them sing together and not feel pushed by the organ, but lifted up and surrounded by it.
In a way, we consider a lot of what we do here through Pope Francis's encyclical Laudato Si. And in that, he talks about being co-creators of justice, co-creators of a world that is sustainable, that creates life. And in a way, when we're creating music on this organ, whoever is playing it, it enters into this co-creational type of relationship with the divine. We're inspired, however that may happen, we're inspired to create this music, and that inspires a congregation of people, whether it be at Mass, a Taizé service, other type of prayer service happening here, to enter into that relationship and begin creating something beautiful within themselves and creating a community.
And is meant to be a conduit for the Holy Spirit to be a voice to people who hear the organ. It's not meant to be its own voice, but it's meant to inspire the stories and the connections between people.
What's so wonderful about an organ, you'll look at it and see a keyboard, much like a piano, but you'll see there's a couple. Some organs have more. We have a full pedal board for the feet to play along. And it's almost like a one-person orchestra. We have everything from our lowest sounds on the pedal to our highest pitches, and everything in between. We have things that sound like a trumpet, beautiful flute stops. We have what we call principals or octaves that give us that kind of stereotypical organ sound. And depending on what you're playing, if it's a hymn or a congregational song, the feet are supporting, or if you think of a choir, that's your bass kind of sound going up to your soprano. When you're playing certain literature, also all of these things controlling different sounds, and about as technologically advanced this organ is memory settings. I have memory pistons here to where I can set certain combinations to make it a little easier for service playing. However, if the electricity were to go out, this organ can be foot pumped, so it can still work without electricity. So, in certain parts of the organ repertoire, the feet can be completely independent of what the hands are doing. So, for example, if the hands are doing something so in that way, the hands and the feet can trade off, and they can play with each other a little bit with trading off a little, supporting one another. It's essentially taking the entire breadth of the sound that we can hear from, again, the lowest up to the highest, and creating, however you want to look at it, either that one-person orchestra or the one-person choir. Everything is happening all together. A few stops that make things really interesting. We have a vox humana. Let's see. That you can use in the vox humana. It's basically mimicking a human voice. And then a neat part of the organ is the Zimbelstern. At the very top of the organ, you'll see a star, and it's gilded in gold. And when that star turns, you'll start to hear bells. It's a fun thing to play along with certain repertoire, but the bells also do a great job accompanying hymns. You get to, for example, at Easter, Jesus Christ is risen today, and you get to that last stanza, the organ is full, you turn on the bells, and it just gives that little sparkle at the end that makes people's heads turn and look, see what's going on. A lot of organists and music directors will go their entire career without being a part. They may go into a church that has a new pipe organ. So I find it, I don't really have words. I find it incredibly humbling to be a part of the process of bringing this instrument to life, and knowing that it will outlast me in my lifetime. It'll go on for generations to be able to provide song and music and uplift people, and in some way continue the journey and people's journey with God well beyond my time on this earth.
liturgy, our corporate worship that happens at Ancilla Chapel. We have prayer services that we invite people to. Our concerts, our music, things that breathe life into the space. And Ancilla Domini Chapel, is the mother church for this province of the Poor Handmaids of Jesus Christ. It's also a spiritual home for those that are associates of Poor Handmaids of Jesus Christ. It's a college chapel for NUAC. It's a place to pray for our many retreatants that come there to Lindenwood Conference and Retreat Center. But we also hope that the rest of the community sees it as a place to come and be uplifted by music. You can come there to pray, come there to worship with us, come to experience the music. If any of you are organists, you can come and play. Or even if you've never played the organ before, you're always welcome to come and give it a try. See what you're missing. But right now, I'm going to put the poor handmaids that are here with us on the spot. First, if you wouldn't mind raising your hands. The poor handmaids with us. They had a vision, something that they saw that could go on living into the future, and that's such an incredible gift. But I'm going to put them on the spot for a moment, and I have a couple of microphone runners, because I would like for you to share, poor handmaids, I would like for you to share what is so meaningful about music in our prayer lives. And I would invite you to share that with the rest of us here. And please say your name too.
I'm Sister Carol. I'm a member of the choir, and I also cantor at the Sunday liturgies at the Mother House. But I'm the only poor handmaid who had the opportunity to go to Virginia to see the organ built. And walking into that, it's an old school building, is what the organ was built in. And it was only half that tall because they couldn't fit it into the wall or into the ceiling. The very first thing that Andrew played on that organ when we came was a piece written by Sister Florentine, one of our sisters, that was written probably in the 1950s. And he said to me, "Oh, come on, Carol, sing with me." Well, I was bawling so hard that I couldn't. And seeing the workshop today brought tears back to my mind because the people who built the organ became our friends. We became their friends. A number of us are still in contact with them all the time because they've entered our life. They prayed with us, they lived with us, they shared life with us, and we with them. And we want to keep that tradition going, and so Andrew's invitation, I will repeat, you're always welcomed in Donaldson. The doors are open for whatever reason you want to come. I'll plug November 19th, or 18th.
16th.
Oh, 16th. Oh, well, who knows. There's a number of us that are singing with people from the community, and we are singing Mozart's Mass in C minor. It's on the back of your program. Please come. Free concert, beautiful music, orchestra music, and singing. So what it means to me, it gives me life and touches my heart.
For me, music and the words to some of the hymns that we sing, especially those written by our own sisters, poor handmaids, it just uplifts my soul and brings such meaning to the words for me. And hearing them being played on this new organ, it just fills the chapel, and it's like I'm floating on a cloud sometimes, listening to that music as we pray during our liturgies, during Taizé. There's a saying that says, singing is twice praying. And singing with this organ is 3 times praying for me. Oh, I'm Sister Margaret Ann.
I'm Sister Judith. I am in Germany in leadership of the Poor Handmaids there, and delighted that my schedule allows me to be here tonight. I was struck tonight, especially when we saw the logo of the Poor Handmaids, and it's a logo of a cross and a rippling pool of water, and that represents to us how small acts ripple out and touch many people. And I think music is very much the same. The music of that organ, the music that touches our heart and our lives, it ripples out from our heart and it changes us and makes us sensitive to God's presence in our lives so that we can better share that with those that we meet. So I'm just appreciative of all who have been involved with the organ and with the making of these wonderful videos. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sister Mary Beth, and I am not a choir kind of singer person. And I tell you, music for me is so much a part of my prayer and of our prayer together. Our prayer with our community, but our prayer with everyone who joins us. I don't think I would do very well just having no music all the time. And what I really appreciated today, again, hearing it again, was how the organ complements the human voice, and it's sort of part of the choir then. And I love that. I think that's a really wonderful way to look at music. And you know, that special star, what is that called? The what did he say?
Go ahead.
Yes. It is so fun for me when that is part of our music, you know, and I think the first time that we heard that, we had a special concert after it was all finished, and, you know, we got to sit in the front and look up at the organ, and all of a sudden that you could hear these bells, and it was like, oh, that is really fun. And so every time now that it goes on, I have to turn around and look at it, even though I've seen it, you know, many times. But it's just such a wonderful gift that we have, and we gladly share it with anyone who, you know, wants to come and be a part of it.
I'm Sister Joetta, and I'm also a cantor, and I feel really blessed to be able to lead people in song at our worship services, but also I'm a member of the special choirs when we have concerts, and we just had one practice so far, and already it sounds so beautiful. So come to the concert on November 16th. But I also minister at Lindenwood Retreat Center, and many of our retreatants there use our chapel and appreciate the organ. One in particular is called a doxology group. They're Lutheran ministers, mostly men, and they sing the psalms in our chapel along with the organ, and it's just beautiful to hear them sing and pray in song along with the organ. So it's being used by so many different groups, and we appreciate that they can enjoy it with us.
Good evening. I'm Sister Deb, or Sister Deborah, and I just want you to know that you're hearing a bunch of nuns talk. Organ music is not just for Catholic nuns. So come on out. Really, come and join us. You will be lifted up. Our worship, as Andrew mentioned, the Taizé services are ecumenical. They're not Catholic masses. So people say, well, that's nice for the Catholic nuns. And it is, and it's very nice for the Catholic nuns, and we love it. But it's not just us, and we want you to know, friends and neighbors, come and join us. And one good opportunity, as Sister Joetta said, and Andrew was doing the commercial also, is the concert that's coming. I only heard the very first recording of the very first practice, and they're ready to put the concert on now. I mean, they're fabulous. So, and of course the organ enhances that, but music is such a gift, and it lifts our souls to God. You know how when you put it on YouTube and it shows up on YouTube and you like that? I mean, besides the other pop stuff, you put it on holy stuff once in a while? This is what that's like. It's such a gift, and it's a gift that keeps on giving.
Thank you to the sisters for adding your voice in to part of this tonight. Everyone else will have an opportunity to add yours in later, so be thinking of what you might say too. We have a couple more videos that we're going to watch that Split Road also recorded a couple of music videos. So we're going to get into those, and I'll explain a little bit more about those after we watch. I chose that particular piece to be one of the first things that I played and had recorded on the organ. Dietrich Buxtehude was a precursor and a teacher of Johann Sebastian Bach, and very much a master of the Northern Baroque organ style. And this piece, Komm, Heiliger, Geist, or Come, Holy Spirit, speaks not only to me because I love the piece, but it speaks of the poor handmaid's charism and spirituality. Just recently, the Poor Handmaids celebrated 173 years since its founding by St. Katharina Kasper in Dernbach, Germany. So using a piece that has German roots, but that also speaks of the Holy Spirit, St. Katharina acted on behalf of the most vulnerable of society, seeking justice and dignity, restoring dignity to those people, all by listening to the small voice within. The name of the Poor Handmaids, Ancilla Domini, Handmaid of the Lord, comes from that moment of when the angel Gabriel came and asked Mary, will you be the mother of God? And she said yes. That fiat, that moment of listening to that small voice has carried through in the ministry of the Poor Handmaids. So that song, that piece seemed particularly fitting. The next one that you're going to hear is sung by Jessica McCormack. She's a soprano. She used to teach here at IU South Bend, and she now lives in the Boston area, but comes back frequently to sing with us. She'll be one of the soloists in the Mozart concert. But this next piece was written by a friend of hers, and it tells the story of when Mary had her yes.
Said that I was
Thank you. So that's a little hint of what you'll experience, that and more at the Messiah concert, so be there. At this point, I would like to open it up to anyone that may have questions, questions about the process, questions I can answer. There's several of the sisters that were on the provincial team when we signed the contract, or you can ask Trevor if there's any, any part of his creative process and the videography.
Andrew, what was the most kind of difficult part about putting in a new pipe organ in the chapel?
Well, the waiting. Certainly. It was, but from the time we signed the contract until the first pieces came was a 3-year period. It takes about a year to build an organ of this size because everything was built completely, from scratch. All of the wood was hand planed, hand carved. They make their own pipes. They melt down different things to create a different sound. Some pipes are more lead heavy, some more tin heavy. So the whole process took about a year from the time they started building it, and they had other contracts ahead of us. So there was a good period of time that we did not have an organ in the chapel. We do have a very fine grained piano down in the front that we used for almost a year from the time the old organ was taken out. And though it was beautiful and it did its job, it just wasn't quite the same. So that interim period of waiting for the organ to get there was, maddening, at least. It was worth it, obviously.
Did you have to check the structural integrity of the building because of the size of the organ, reinforce things? Because I imagine the weight was quite a bit more than what had been there.
Yes, so we're very blessed to have a very wonderful project manager on staff, J.R. Daves. He made sure everything was sound. We did not have to do any structural support. The choir loft actually is almost solid concrete underneath of it, and the way it's supported and comes out from the floor of the mother house. So we were very fortunate that we didn't have to, because I've known other churches, the Basilica of the Sacred Heart at Notre Dame, for example, had to reinforce their choir loft to have the new organ put in. So it does happen, but we were fortunate.
As an organist, I'm familiar with the process of fitting or registering the stops to the music. But how do you go about fitting the stops to the space? To designing them? And how do you know how they're going to sound?
Well, that is a wonderful question, and it really, for me, it's been experimentation. You know, I'm still discovering new combinations of sound that, you know, work so beautifully. When it was during the voicing phase, and I can come back to that in a second, but during that phase, I would go out into the space and listen to Aaron Reichert that you saw in the video, and I would listen to him play things, and I knew what stops he was playing, and different combinations, so I could get a good sense. When you're at the console, it's pretty close to what you experienced, obviously a little louder. The pedal pipes, the big pipes that you saw in the background behind the case, they're right there, so it's a little more present than it is downstairs. So it's really just been a lot of trial and error. Sometimes I do, you know, play something on a Sunday and I think, maybe not my favorite, but, you know, and then you try again and just keep experimenting with it. Because certainly, you know, there's plenty of solo organ repertoire that does come with suggestions for registrations, but not all, especially things pre-19th century. A lot of it is, you know, things that the performers knew at the time. You have to go back in treatises and things like that to understand. But a lot of it really is, does it sound nice? Does it work? And going that way.
I think you mentioned at the beginning that there's like 100 organ, like people who build organs, and obviously having tried to find an organist for my wedding, it's hard to find people who play. How do you see that tradition being passed on? And maybe for the documentary maker, do you feel like this film could be part of that? Like, is that part of the plans for it?
That's a wonderful question. I think there's a lot of ways to answer that. You know, it is, you know, going back to the idea of there's probably only, we sought out 4 different organ builders. Those were 4 that I was familiar with, had played their organs and knew that that was kind of the style we were leaning towards. But, you know, there's not many organ builders. There are dwindling organ departments at colleges that are training organists. I think we're very fortunate in the state of Indiana to have IU Bloomington and Notre Dame, 2 of the largest organ departments in the country, right here in our own backyard. But I think it also depends on the denomination. You know, some Christian denominations, you know, tend to lean one particular way. There's a trend that's happening within the Catholic Church and within some mainline Protestant churches that are turning back towards a more traditional worship style, for all that entails. So it's possible there may be a resurgence. I don't know. It would be wonderful that, I think that's the gift though, is having instruments like this to inspire people. When we've had the organ dedication, the Handel's Messiah concert that we did last year, it's amazing to me the number of young people that are coming, young families that are coming to these. And I'm hoping, because I've had small children come up and want to meet me when I've been directing the choir. Small children came up to want to meet Dr. Benjamin Stone, who did the dedication recital, wanted to meet him and talk to him specifically, you know, from ages like 5 or 6. So I hope the seed is planted, and we'll see.
Just to add to that, if somehow somebody saw my video and was inspired to take up being an organist because of that, that would be like the most incredible thing I can imagine. So hopefully that happens.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to learn, we have a handful of organists in the room.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I was curious your thoughts on installing a fairly historical styled instrument in a church that does a variety of things, not exclusively Catholic and not exclusively North German. And how does this end up working in practice? You and I are two Catholic directors that don't have a swell box, for instance.
Correct. You know, it does. I guess, you know, we can start off by saying that, you know, the organ has the most solo repertoire written for it of any instrument just because of the longevity of, you know, the instrument itself. So it's not great or well suited for certain let's say, you know, late 19th century through the 20th century, but not all of it. You know, it's not completely limited. It is, I wouldn't call it eclectic at all. It is really good at one thing. And that was something that I thought about, that because of the space in designing this for new, do something that it is really excellent at one thing, or at some, you know, it's excellent in something and really good in others. And, you know, if I don't get to play Vidor, it's not going to completely break my heart. But it's, you know, there are a few things that I can't play as far as solo rep. I have not encountered an issue, because when we approached the organ builders and said, primarily a hymn playing organ, a congregational singing supported instrument. Second, for repertoire. Third, for choir. We never do anything that are huge anthems. If you think of like the Anglican choral tradition, we don't do that style of music. Especially on Sundays, I have a really good faithful choir. And we do a lot of 1 to 2 part type of things, so just soft registrations to accompany them. They made sure to voice some of the stops to work really well for cantors, so it never overpowers. And if you have to play something that needs a little bit of a crescendo or a little growing of the sound, the 6-second reverb in Ancilla Domini Chapel covers a lot of piston changes. So that helps. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know that, you know, there are certainly, others have a particular taste, but I haven't found any real limitations with it yet, in my own experience. Thank you.
Andrew, is there any special training that it takes to play this organ? It looks massive and looks like it'd be hard to play.
It is sometimes. You know, in the United States, you can study organ at certain universities from bachelor's through doctorate. I did my bachelor's degree in organ performance. My graduate work is in choral conducting. I can't say, I did not learn organ technique on an instrument like this. So it really was when I got to that point that the organ teaches you a little bit. Every organ is a bit different. You know, it's not buying a clarinet that you can carry with you and play all the time and you're used to that one instrument and the way it feels and you get used to it. If you're going from instrument to instrument that's available to you, you kind of let the instrument teach you a little bit. It informs you what it needs and you try to be attentive to that. You didn't ask this, Dave, but I'm going to piggyback on that. Because something that I find really interesting about training for organ builders, taken in that direction, it's one of the few career paths that still operates in an apprenticeship model. Like there's nothing really that you go to school for. Many of the people that work at Taylor and Moody are not organists. Several are, but the majority are not. Of the 3 people, the 3 co-owners, only 1 is an organist. So the rest specialize in other things, but through their apprenticeship, they learn different parts of the organ building. Case design, they learn about the wood. For example, learning to touch the wood after it's been seasoned to try to determine the hydration of the wood just by sight and feel. That's something that they need to learn before they can go on to certain other tasks in the organ building process. And once they go through the apprenticeship into being more of a master organ builder, then they can decide if there's a niche that they fall into. So it's a really interesting process.
Along with the organ building, as you were talking, could you say a little bit more about why this particular company was the right one to go with?
Yeah, sure. So the people that we requested proposals from, I traveled different places and played some of their instruments. I had been familiar with Taylor and Booty before. George Taylor, one of the original founders of the company, he and Robbie Lawson, Robbie did the case design and some of the carvings. They happened to be in the area. They were delivering a small continuo organ or portative organ, if you've ever seen a small little box organ that plays with an orchestra. They were delivering one to the University of Notre Dame and stopped by Ancilla Chapel. And George, he's in his 80s, he walks in, he looks around, he sees the space, and he said, well, of course our organ would sound great in here. Of course it will. And he looked at me and said, but tell me about the solar panels out in the field and tell me about the windmill. He said, I want to know more about that. George and his wife were at the very first Earth Day celebration in Washington, D.C. back in the 70s and have committed to making Taylor and Booty run almost completely energy neutral. So that was part of it. That was certainly a big thing to know that as much as we try to move in a sustainable way out at Ancilla, that they matched that. And we knew that when we're requesting or we're asking a builder like this to create something, it always belongs to them a little bit too. It never leaves them. So we knew that this was going to be a relationship forever. This wasn't a Amazon delivery package, here you go, and they walk away. They're with us. So knowing that it was somebody we wanted to be in that relationship with, and they just seemed to integrate so easily into our community. And they're one of few organ builders. They have BJ. She's the wife of one of the owners, but she made 90% of the pipes. So a lot of organ builders, it's still a very male-dominated field, so it was kind of nice there was a woman that was making a lot of the pipes for this particular instrument. So that was nice too. Yes.
I'm a co-worker at the Ancilla Domini Chapel and for the Poor Handmaids, and one of the benefits of working there is stepping out into the hallway when Andrew is practicing, or Benjamin is practicing, and it just makes you linger a little while. And when you're in chapel, you really can feel it going right through you. And I was privy to watching this process and even got to visit the workshop with Sister Carol and Andrew. And I talked it up to my husband and son and my daughter, and I said, you've got to come and see this when it opens. And the boys were just shocked that an organ plays something other than Take Me Out to the Ball Game. Absolutely in shock. And if you're going to a Sox game, that's about all your entertainment you're going to get this year.
I'm Clara Lloyd, and I have had an association with the organ in Ancilla. I would like to add Valparaiso University to your schools that do have organ education programs. Yes. They are very accessible from this location. From the number of pipes that were stated in the thousands, where are the rest from what we see?
So there's 2,484? Wow. 86. So there are pipes made of metal, of course, that you see in the facade. There are pipes made of wood that are behind the organ that are part of the pedal division. And the case is not overly deep. So the rest of the pipes that you don't see from the front are stacked in their ranks behind that. And So any of you can come out and I can show you all this because it's really neat. To walk between the back wall where the pedal pipes are and the rest of the case, there's a walkway, there's stairs that go to another, and then to a third walkway to access all of the different divisions. Part of the design of this organ that was different than the Van Dinter that was there before. The Van Dinter was conceived to play for a pre-Vatican II Mass, meaning that it wasn't playing a lot of congregational hymns. It was supporting a very different style of liturgy. And it was shorter, like half of the height of the new instrument, but more than twice as deep. The pipes were very thick. And it created a very thick sound. If you can put a texture to it, it was a very rounded, thick sound. And even after many renovations, you couldn't always really hear the treble the further you got into the chapel close to the altar. So by building it thinner and taller, that treble sound, really carries. It's the way it's voiced helps too. But that really helps it get all the way to the altar without it ever seeming too, in my opinion, the organ is never too loud any place in the room that you are. It carries very evenly throughout.
I'm Kay Finley, organist at First United Methodist. I have a couple of questions. What kind of a maintenance program do you have? Tuning and that type of thing? And also, I noticed there's no volume pedal. I wonder about that.
Sure. So first, there are several things that are covered, in the first 5 years that are under warranty. So that's very helpful too. The other thing that's very helpful with a tracker instrument or a mechanical action organ, a lot of it can be fixed. By me, or I have a couple of friends that will help me out. I can tune a lot of it myself. A lot of it with little weights and the ways you can pull the trackers on the inside, I can tune it without them coming out. And what's really great, and they don't do it by billable hours, I can FaceTime Aaron in Taylor and Booty, and he can tell me how to access something if I forget how. So, aside from big things, voicing, if there are any issues like that, or if there's really something that I just can't do myself, a lot of it is workable. Oh, and then you're right. There's no expression pedal, and there's no crescendo. So it really is about utilizing to the best of your ability the combination action, if you need something like that. And really, it's amazing when you start playing with the reverberation in the space and adding certain, stops to one another. You can get a nice, swell, if you will, without it really changing the color. Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Any other thoughts? I could talk about this all night, but I won't. However, anytime that you want to come out, if you want to have a little private tour of the organ, I'm always happy to do that. I can explain more about it, tell more about it. It's very special to see up in person, and that might inspire more questions too. So please, never hesitate to come out and visit. Jesse.
This question's for Trevor. What was the most challenging part about making the documentary at the Ancilla Domini Chapel?
I think just looking at it and seeing the organ and the room and how perfect and beautiful it is, trying somehow to figure out how to get that through and to make people feel the way that you actually feel when you're there was not easy, and I spent many months trying to figure out what to do, and it's just the whole process was very inspiring for me personally, because I was able to make something that was beyond what I thought I was capable of. And there was one specific experience that I'd like to share that I'm not sure anyone on this planet has ever experienced before except me, is there was one time where there was 50 to 100 priests in the chapel, and they were, I don't know why they were there, but they were singing, and it was like beautiful singing, and they're down there and the organ's being built, and I'm flying a drone above them, and I was like, there's no way this has happened before. It was really a really great experience. So.
All right, well, as we wrap up this evening, I want to thank you again for being here tonight. This was wonderful to have you with us. We will be making these videos available on our website and our social media. If you want to share them, just keep a lookout there. As was mentioned earlier, all of our performances at Ancilla Domini Chapel are free and open to the public, recognizing that there are those where a $20 or $30 ticket to a symphony concert may be prohibitive when you have a family. We never want that to be an obstacle to keep someone from coming in and not only enjoying beautiful music, but having that transformative experience that we hope for. All of that is made possible by very generous donations. The organ was made possible by very generous donations. So if you feel inspired to give anything to our future performances, the QR code that's on the order will take you to your landing page. Please feel free to take this with you. If you yourself or if you know anyone that would like to give, we appreciate that very much, so we can keep these free and continue doing that in the future. I would also like to thank our marketing coordinator out at the center, Joanna, has put in so much work into this event tonight, and she got sick over the weekend and was unable to be here with us. I really couldn't have made this event possible without her, so we're sending her love and prayers to get better soon. But our wonderful marketing and communications team, development, IT, the Rees Theatre here in Jackson, thank you all so much for everything that you've done to make this possible. And to the Poor Handmaids, thank you for not only gifting me, but gifting the community with music. So thank you all. Have a wonderful evening and come out and visit us soon.